Eddie, Ben, why am I doing this lead-in? Alana's not here, so you all probably really miss her. We know we do. So anyway, today we are going to do a little bit of complaining, but also a little bit of, well, how can we make things better when there's a complaint to be complained about? Which is to say, in this regard, what do you do when you're trying to affect positive change and you've got a very difficult person who is just not having it? So with that said, I turn it over to the group. What are your experiences?
I've come across a bunch of people who have tried to, for whatever reason, and I think that's the crux of this, but a bunch of people who've been blocking what I was helping other people try and achieve. And I think it's important to understand why. Like a lot of the time, there's different facets to why someone might want to block you or might want to be difficult. But quite often I found that it becomes from their position or their role or their speciality or their skill being under threat. So something that they were very comfortable with. When I go into a client, I'm often kind of trying to shepherd radical change. And because of that, there are people who are scared of that. So what do you do about that? Like, how do you get them from being scared and threatened to not scared and a willing participant? That's kind of understanding the deeper element I found to be quite useful.
I don't think I can give you a good what to do here, because obviously it's very context driven, right? You have to understand that person's unique fear, and there's never going to be a one size fits all of this will make any leader who is afraid. I think it's fair to say it's driven from fear. There's no one size fits all that you can take any leader that is afraid and follow these 5 easy steps and then change it. What I can give you is a kind of a do not, which is something I noticed. I've had people, because of my age specifically, because I'm quite young for my role, kind of push back on any change I'm trying to create and use my age as a justification as to why my changes aren't valid, right? So they have a kind of a certain line of attack. And what I realized is that there's no point in trying to combat the reason they present you, because once you've combated that, they will find something else. I know there's a joke that a famous Slovenian philosopher said, where a woman was coming up to him and flirting with him, and she said, oh, if I was just 5 kilos lighter, if I lost 5 kilos of weight, then I would be perfect, then I'd be so happy with my body. And he said, whatever you do, don't lose 5 kilos, because once you lose 5 kilos, all of a sudden it'll be one of your teeth is a little bit crooked, or then it'll be my hairline's a bit receding or something. So we have a tendency to always, if we want to dislike something, we will find a reason to dislike it. And I think in the same way that you mentioned it comes from fear, if someone is disagreeing with you and they say, oh, it's because you're too young, or oh, it's because you're too old, or it's because you're from this part of the country, or whatever reason they have, if you try and fight their reason, you'll just be peeling layers of an onion that never gets to the middle, where they'll always find a reason to block you. Whereas that's why I think what Ben said is so important, is that you have to really understand that it's coming deeply from them and it's something to do with their fears. And you have to work on that level instead of trying to combat kind of how they're projecting that onto you, because they'll find a new way to project it onto you over and over again. And you'll build healing with these limitless things.
So let me ask a question then. Is there a world where you just navigate around these people? Like, should you try and but should you try and address these people head on and like work with them and try and understand them and try and kind of unkink the hose, as it was? Or should you kind of sidestep and say, well, they'll get carried along with the flowing water in the future. I'll deal with them later. Like, what is it? Anyone got any experience with either of those?
I think there's 2 different kinds of people, and you have to figure out which one you're dealing with. You've got your healthy skeptic. And I think, Ben, your point is, it's not just fear that they're experiencing, but it's also they could perceive what we're doing as an attack. They've been successful in their role for the last 5, 10, 15 years. And all of a sudden we're coming in there and saying they have to do things completely differently. And they're like, well, I've been doing this well this whole time. And honestly, like story points sounds like nonsense if you're used to dealing with time. If you're dealing with the healthy skeptic and you're able to empathize with them and get them to understand why you're doing what you're doing and how it's going to not only benefit their lives, but benefit the lives of the people they work with, I've turned those people into the biggest Agile champions. In fact, one of them was promoted twice and became a senior leader in the organization because she actually understood, what was important. Versus you've got some other ones that are just going to obstruct. And in that case, if leaders aren't willing to step in and do something about it, which is a common experience that I've had, you've got to work around them in the best way that you can.
Lior, I have a question. How did you manage that with that success case that you are sharing with us? Did you have a conversation with that person? Did you assign more responsibilities? No, okay, now you're going to lead this. So they have, I don't know, they commit to something and they feel responsible. So their commitment is higher and they involve with this, or how did you do with that?
In the cases I'm thinking about, it's always been a manager or above. Like it's always a leader that's on the hook for the delivery of the thing. And they're saying, whether they're the project manager that I'm turning into a scrum master, or they're the product lead of a given area where we have to deliver something, it's been a lot of fighting, a lot of arguments. And I just listen to their arguments and I bring my argument and I say, watch, tell me what you need. What are the things that you think are going to go wrong? And I will document everything. And over the course of time, I will tangibly show you what you're going to get out of this that's different and better than what you have. And I've been laughed at. And then a couple of months later, they start to see that they not only have more visibility into what's going on, but they have more of an ability to do something about it. And that's when things started to change. And it's not easy, right? Because then they have to back off their original position. And you have to be a big person to be willing to do that.
So that sounds good. Sorry, Lichi. Go on.
Okay. No, one question. Is it possible that people that show that transformation or that they turn into, I don't know, allies are the ones that they see visible results with the change that you are doing? Do they need to see I don't know, a concrete result that, okay, I believe in this? Are those do they need that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does if you're a data-oriented person, right? Like, I'm not going to try some new diet if I don't know for a fact I'm going to lose weight on it.
Well, that overlaps with what I was going to ask, is that assuming an orange organization? Mm-hmm. Would the approach be different if the predominant culture was green or something else?
I think that's fair. I think your hardcore obstructionists are going to be your ambers, and anyone orange or above who has access to the data-driven orange element of it, they're going to be the ones that you can work with.
So what do you do if you get an amber obstruction? Do you get the rules changed? Is that the best way to deal with them?
It's funny. I've seen that happen where now there's a mandate. There's a mandate that we're going agile, and they still won't do it. They'll find a way to ignore the mandate. So that's an interesting perspective you're giving, because, well, now it's a rule, but their fidelity to their original process is such that they'll go against their, classic amber morals and break the rule.
And here, is it because of fidelity, or because they are in their comfort zone? And that means that a new process, even though it is a process, and amber people would, they look forward to that, rules and norms and processes, even though they are like that, but they are new. Is it because they are going to be not anymore in their comfort zone?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, and let's not paint ambers with a single brush. Like, everybody loves rules. Like, they're like everybody else. They like the rules that they like. So with that, I think we're at time. So thank you, everybody, Lucci, Eddie, Ben, for the conversation. And please like and subscribe, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.